Hello everyone, I'm Iz. Welcome back to another OUTCLAW tutorial where we show you how to make this cute little guy. Oh my god, he's just adorable. Look at this thing. So this tutorial is not brought to you by me. I'll be voicing it, but Beth, our 3D artist for the game OUTCLAW, is who modelled this, and I will be talking you through how she kind of came up with this. To give you a bit of context, this is a model for our first indie title, OUTCLAW. Play as Giblet, a five-eyed space cat with the ability to control armies of shadow kittens, we call shades, cause chaos, solve puzzles, and explore wondrous worlds in this adventure packed with mischief, gods, and monsters. It's a third-person action adventure that currently has a demo on Steam, so if you're interested, check it out and give us a wish list. We also have a community Discord server where we host events such as Draw This in Your Style and are amping up to hold even more community events. Now, let's get started with the video. In this tutorial, we're going to be using Blender and Adobe Substance Painter. This tutorial will show some tips and tricks, but if you're not 100% sure what's happening, I'd definitely recommend going back and following some basic tutorials on how to use the software. Right, let's get started. See what I did? Let's see. Sorry. So we're starting with the low poly version. We do move on to a high poly version. Totally not necessary because it will have an emissive, so it'll be all glowing in engine. But it's nice to have the high poly version for some smoothness. To start off with, open up Blender. That's always a good start. So you want to turn on the extra meshes add-on. So in order to do this, you need to get the extra mesh objects extension installed, which is in Edit, Preferences, Get Extensions, search extra mesh objects and then install that. And then you can go back into Edit Preferences, Add-ons, and then search extra mesh objects, tick on, and surprisingly, this will add extra meshes for you to use. Yay! Now that you've got your extra meshes, you want to open up the mesh menu and go to the math functions and add a regular solid. Changing it to a dodecahedron, you can do that in the little bottom left corner, though it can be any shape you want it to be depending on the effect you want. Beth's just gone for a dodecahedron here. So then you want to switch to edit mode by pressing tab, select all the faces individually and extrude them outwards. And you want to press E to extrude, but you want to do this all individually because if you try and extrude the whole object together, it's just going to go in one direction and that's not quite what we're looking for here. Afterwards, once you've got all the faces extruded, merge all the faces, select them all by clicking Shift and left click, merge by pressing M, and then press collapse. Then you want to add a bevel modifier, and you can mess around with this to kind of get the effect that you want. It just means that the star points aren't so pointy and it's just a bit softer. But that's the star done. Yippee, you've made a star. Yay! So now, let's tie this all together with the rope. So you want to add in a torus, which is like a donut shape, and you can rotate them around and adjust the size so they fit the star properly. And you can do this by selecting the object and pressing the S key for size adjustments and the R key for rotate. There isn't tons of continuity between the rope tying around, but that's kind of all right in this case because, again, it's on such a small scale, it'll hardly be noticeable. And then you want to move on to adding some extra toruses on the top of the star to make a knot for where the rope can wrap around the starlight to whatever it's attached to, so the ceiling or like a branch or whatever. The length of the rope will be added when you hop into Unreal because then it allows for more flexibility in the size and diversity in rope length. So that's the basic shapes done, and you can mess around with this to get the desired effects that you want. Now you have a little present, yippee! And you know what's next? Let's unwrap it. The best part of presents. For the star, it's such a straightforward shape. The Blender auto unwrap function is quite enough for what you need. Blender auto unwrapping isn't always the best method to go for, but in cases like this where it's small, it's simple, it's not supposed to be anything complicated, it's a really great way to save some time. For the rope, you want to look for some inconspicuous seams that are on the inside of the rope so that it doesn't show on the outside. Then you want to rotate all the UVs on the UV map to be the same direction. So by having them all unwrapped in one direction, and so that means when there's any repeated lines and gradients in substance, they'll look continuous on the rope, and anything that kind of looks a bit weird will get hidden inside the star. So very quickly, we'll just move on to the high poly. This, like I said at the start, is by no means necessary, but means the starlight is going to be visually smoother and nicer to look at. Add a little bit of spice, if you will. So you want to make sure that you're working on a different version from your low poly, so just duplicate your layers and then add subdivisions to your meshes and voila. High poly star shape is it's not supposed to be super complicated because this is just supposed to be extra bit of detail for very little time. So now that we're in substance, we're going to be starting with the star again. And the way substance works is it's building up a bunch of layers to get the textures and the effects that you want. So we're starting off with the base color underneath everything. It can be whatever color you want it to be. In this example, Beth has gone for a yellow color. It can be pink, blue, purple, green, indigo, violet, any color of the rainbow you want, or any color of the color mixer. I ain't gonna judge you. And this color is going to be what you base your next layers on. So here Beth has added another layer on top, doing a slightly lighter yellow, and then she's added a mask on top with a position gradient. And this mask is basically going to say, I don't want the yellow to go here. And you can position this any way you like. You can see how she's done it here, but like that's not how you have to do it. Do whatever you like. And then she's added another layer on top of that for an even lighter color, and then done the position gradient mask again to further say, I don't want this yellow to go any further here. You can mess around with these masks as much as you want to get a higher contrast with softer and harsher lines and bigger and smaller gradients. And what's great with this as well is the fact that you can just plug it straight into the Unreal Emissive for a glow effect. So it's super straightforward in Engine as well. It's fantastic. So the star is pretty uninvolved as a whole process, pretty straightforward all in all, and you can just have it however you want, and it's going to be covered up mostly in glow, so I won't worry too much about it. For the rope, however, it's a little bit more involved, and when we're looking around at the star, you can see a little bit of a harsh seam, which hurts Beth's soul immeasurably. Doesn't really matter because it'll be at such a small scale that you'll hardly even notice it. To actually make the texture for the rope, we're going to start off with a basic fill layer for the base color. Pick whatever color you want the rope to be, but this is just the underlayer once again. And then you're adding another layer on top for the height map, and this is where the texture really comes from, as this is where the rope pattern happens, and it will be where your UV unwrapping from earlier comes in quite handy, because then you can just focus on having it as a repeated pattern. So now that you've got this height map, you can use it for any layer as an anchor point to then add texture and dimension to those layers. So on top of this height map, Beth added ambient occlusion, which is the ambient lighting, and curvature to get definition using this height mask. Once the base is done for the height and detailing, you can add some baked lighting stylized to the height map. To do this, you right-click your layer, add filter, choose baked lighting stylized, it's right at the top. Baked lighting stylized is a great tool to use, as it's an easy way to make models pop from the game without spending lots of time hand painting them. It's a shortcut to pretty models essentially. To kind of further sell the idea that this is rope with texture, Beth has also added the height as a reference mask for a lot of layers throughout, just kind of picking and choosing, messing around and experimenting for extra detail. To do this, you can click on the layer, go to the height channel through the top right drop-down box, select the anchor point made from your selected height map. This means that it'll take the height map and to the lighting calculations for the texture information. Mess around with different layers, different sliders, all of that jazz to get the effect that you want. Don't worry too much about it again, because it's going to be on a small scale and the emissive will be covering it to a certain extent. But to finish it all off, you want to add a little bit of extra roughness for further texture, and this will sell the illusion further that this is rope. And voila! Now you have a starlight like the one in OUTCLAW.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested in OUTCLAW, we have a demo out on Steam now with the link in description. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or join our community Discord and ask there. We've got all of the team on there and we can answer any and all questions you got. If you enjoyed the video, follow along our journey here with more devlogs, or for more casual updates, we also post on Instagram, TikTok and Discord. I hope you have a wonderful week.